Hello, English learners. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Michael, and we have a really fun episode planned today. Because today I'll be talking with Ray from English with Ray. And he's a fantastic, really skilled and likable English teacher from Scotland, and we had a really good chat today. I get a lot of requests from people to have more casual conversations on the podcast. People don't want me to use my teacher voice so much, and they just want me to kind of hear what it's like to hear two friends having a chat about various topics. And I think that's the kind of feeling you'll get from this episode, because Ray and I have talks about various different topics. We get sidetracked quite a lot. We use some casual expressions, and I think it very much sounds just like two friends talking. That was my hope anyway. And I really hope you enjoy it as well. Even though it is a casual conversation, I still have taken the time to make a transcript for you. It takes so much time to do, but I really think it can help you. If you think it can help you, then feel free to check it out. If you don't need it, you don't want to use it, that's also fine. But I'll mention it each episode anyway. So if you want to use the transcripts, you can become a member at Level Up English. So go to levelupenglish.school, click on the members button, and you can access the transcript, which basically means you can read all the subtitles to this episode. It takes a long time to do, but I do it because I think it can help you. And yeah, I'd love to get your feedback if it does. Another thing we did together, Ray and I spoke for about 45 minutes today. He kindly joined me for another 20 minutes on my private podcast. So this is something I might do from now on. I might add a private section with the guests too. Some of the episodes may be shorter in the future because of this, but this one is pretty much the same length. But in the private podcast this week, Ray and I talked about some funny and difficult would you rather questions. So if you want to hear that, listen to the private podcast. Again, this is available on the Level Up members site, which you can find in the link below in the show notes. But yeah, I hope you enjoy that private one as well, and let me know your feedback. But in the main episode today, you will hear us talk about a little bit about the new year, about self-development, goals, and things like that. I asked Ray some questions about his plans for the year, and I try to give some useful English expressions in them as well. So I recommend you listen along and also ask yourself these questions too, and think about your own answers in your head, or even leave a comment on the show notes. Oh, also, one more thing that I always forget to mention is, because this is a conversation episode, you can listen or watch this podcast. So there will be an audio version on the podcast app, which is where most of you will be listening to this. But there's also a YouTube version. So if you want to see Ray and his amazing beard and I talk in video, then you can go to my YouTube channel, which is just Level Up English. And again, I'll put a link to that in the show notes of this episode. But yeah, feel free to watch the video or listen to the audio, whatever you prefer. But anyway, thank you for watching. And without any further ado, here is my conversation with Ray. Hello everyone, hello English learners, welcome back to the podcast. I'm joined today by Ray from English with Ray. So thank you very much for joining me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for bringing me on as your guest. I've been really excited to come on here with you.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we spoke before on your show, right? And that was a lot of fun, and I'm happy to continue now.
Great.
This is my first kind of recording of the year of 2022, so I'm a bit rusty, so hopefully you and the
Congratulations. I'm rusty also, so I'm sure it'll be a good match.
Nice. How was your new year?
It was good. It was chilled out. I was saying to you before we started recording that it was New Year's Eve, and I just thought to myself, I can't believe it's New Year's Eve again. Like, it feels like the last year just went by so quickly. I feel like this whole pandemic has just made time like go really, really fast. Sometimes the days feel long, but the months, the weeks, the years are just going past another one.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because I heard something about that before, but do you have any idea why it feels like it's speeding up?
I couldn't say. I've made the joke to some people that one day I might have kids, and my kids get older, and I tell them how old I am, and I tell them that your father's so old that when I was younger, that we didn't wear masks, and we could actually sit next to each other. I hope that doesn't come true. But as for why time's moving so quickly, I could only guess. What did you hear about it?
Well, what I heard, I think it makes a lot of sense, is people think it's something inherent with aging that, when you get older, time goes faster, but that doesn't make much sense logically. And what I heard is, generally, as you get older, you have more of the same routine, so your life won't change so much. So maybe when you're younger, you're doing different things every day. You're kind of moving to different houses, traveling around the world, and like the more that you squeeze into your year, the longer it feels.
Well, here's an interesting one, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking of this recently. Like, for example, do you drive?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, cool. What age were you when you started driving?
17.
Okay, so 17, this is around the time that you're probably going college and stuff, and maybe you're taking a bus or whatever back then.
Yeah.
For me, it's the same. I got my license at 18, started driving around like 20 or 21. But through my like university experience, I was taking the bus and I was taking the train. And see that whole period where I was taking the bus and the train, I have a lot of memories. Like a lot of crazy stuff happened on the bus and on the train. Particularly the bus route that I took, it went past like our Glasgow kind of sheriff court. So there would always be like people coming onto the bus who have to go to their trial or whatever, and they tell me why they're innocent and da 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 da. But see, when you start driving to work or to college or whatever, even though it's exciting and you think there's going to be so much more comfort in it, there's not really any memories. It's not very memorable being by yourself in a car. It's comfortable, but I don't know. It feels like I've done thousands of journeys in the car and I don't remember any of them. But like things that happened on the bus 10 years ago, I still remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. I kind of spoke about this on the previous podcast, and it's like having a comfortable life isn't necessarily good for making memories. If you're on holiday, you could be sat on the beach all day, which is nice in the moment, but then when you think back on it, it's not really a good memory. The good memory is when your car breaks down and you go to the pub and ask for help and you meet all these crazy people, and
100%.
That's the good memory.
An important lesson that I learned over the last maybe 10 years was that stress is good for you. And from time to time, I talk to people and they say, like, kind of in my position, in my family, I'm like one of the elder ones and there's a lot of younger people below me. And, being an English teacher, I feel in my life I take somewhat of a teacher role. And, I sometimes ask these younger ones, where do you want to be in your life in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And you get some answers like, I'd like to be in a place where there's no more stress, no more work, where I can just chill out. And I feel everyone's pursuing this like leisurely, no stress, everything's calm. But it's not good for us. I don't think it's natural at all. I think, life is stress. And there's this Hungarian scientist called Dr. Hans Seil, and he says that stress is the spice of life. Complete freedom from stress is death. Like, we actually need stress to grow. Like, even when you exercise, you're putting your muscles under stress to actually make them grow, and it's the same for mind or personality to gain knowledge. Like, we need stress, so I think it's something we should actually have a healthy relationship with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I like thinking it that way. It reminds me of the Taoist. What would you say? Not sure if it's a proverb or way of thinking, let's say, where if a tree is growing in the wind, it's going to be stronger, it's going to have deeper roots. The wind kind of represents stress. But then if a tree grows in a perfect condition with no wind and no stress or forces pushing against it, it's just going to fall over the first time there's a storm. So it's kind of related to that.
You kind of see it with these like first world problems. Like I was working in this. It was like a electronics store, but we also sold like ovens and washing machines and stuff like this. And this woman comes in and she's got like an oven she needed replaced, but we didn't have the size that she needed. And this woman started profusely crying. And I told some of my students about this. This was a couple of years ago. And they said, I wish I had those kind of problems. You know, because like, see, some of the students, when like as an English teacher, you're dealing with people from all over the world. Sometimes you deal with people who are either in the third world or they've been to the third world. They have real problems. You hear people crying because my oven's out of stock. It's like, man, get a grip.
Yeah. I love that topic of first world problems. I think it's good to have a label on it so you kind of take a step back and realize, we often have them, especially living here.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm sure we could get quite carried away. I feel like we've got a lot in common. We could talk for a while, but I feel like we should properly introduce who you are. So would you like to tell the audience, like, who are you and where are you from? What do you do? This kind of basic stuff.
So my name's Rehan. I'm from Scotland and I'm an English teacher. Yeah, I'm quite boring. It's rinse and repeat. I like making films. I'm a very spiritual person. I try to be a good person. Being a teacher is a big part of who I am. I love teaching. I love helping people. Yeah, but that's me for the most part.
Yeah, perfect. Nice, simple one. And like, do you teach online or in person normally?
Online, but I'd actually really like to transition to in person. My whole thing is one-to-one teaching. Primarily, I'd say I specialize in helping students speak fluently, work on their grammar. There's a lot of points in grammar that students regularly kind of stagnate at. So a big part of what I do is I like to focus in these areas. And like as I said, my background's in filmmaking, so I make a lot of video episodes in which I and coach students through this and give them the right resources. I find it incredibly rewarding. Over the last year and a half, I've done, I think, 2,500 classroom hours. So love teaching online, but my plan is to go in person as well. Currently, like you, I'm doing the CELTA. You've already completed it, so I'm working on that, and I'd really like to go to another country and perhaps work there for a couple of months or a year or something.
Perfect. Yeah, I think CELTA should be very helpful for that. What country are you thinking about? What's on your list?
I'd like to go to an Arab country because it's the language. Like being in ESL, I try and learn some of my students' languages. I like to learn things like, for instance, in like Turkish, if my Turkish student says something right, I'm like, "Why jananna?" Wow, well done. Or in Russian, it's like Pravilna, correct. Отлично, very отлично, good job. Or in Arabic, Asant, Jayyid Jiddan. I try to learn a little bit of these kind of things in my students' language. But Arabic is actually a language I feel fairly confident in, and just the kind of being around the culture. And I mean, I'm very ill-traveled. I've not traveled a lot in my life, but the Arab world, particularly maybe Medina, Mecca, Qatar, Egypt even. I'd love to spend some time in one of those countries.
Yeah, same here. It's kind of, I don't know where to start really because it's such a big place. There's so many countries. I don't quite know where to start, but I guess anywhere, right? Start anywhere is better than nowhere.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Really good. Well, I mentioned to you before that I think because of the time this podcast is coming out, this is the first conversation podcast I'm doing of the year. I thought it might be good to talk about this because I love this topic of resolutions and reflecting on what's going well and planning for the year. And I think you said as well you like self-development, so it could be
very close subject to me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that too. So I'm kind of hoping you say yes. Otherwise, it might be a very short episode, but we'll see. Have you made any New Year's resolutions or plans or goals for this year?
No resolutions, right?
No?
But I don't think it's going to be a short episode. I have an answer to this, right? So in the past, I've tried keeping resolutions, but the one thing I always found preposterous is when people say, "Oh, New Year's resolution, I'm going to start the diet, I'm going to get the six-pack for the summer and stuff," and then it's like, it's Christmas time, it's a few days preceding Christmas, and they're drinking alcohol, and they're eating cakes, and they're having all this stuff and fast food, and it's like, wait, I thought you said you had your resolution to lose weight, and I'm like, oh, but it's not the New Year yet. I'm like, are you kidding me? You haven't started because it's not the New Year. And I suppose with the New Year, there is kind of a culture of people adopting a self-development kind of attitude. But I think, true self-development, it cannot be seasonal. I'd say when I was maybe like 16 or 17 years old, I came across Elliot Hulls on YouTube. And Elliot Hulls spoke about becoming the strongest version of yourself, and this being like a life journey. And this was the first time I was kind of exposed to this idea. And I'd say, if anything, I more so have a life's resolution. Like, I want to be the best version of myself, like spiritually, mentally, physically. Some people say that, oh, but you peak at 25 and then after that it's downhill or whatever. I don't believe that to be the case. Like, look at even like the only sport that I actually follow is the World's Strongest Man. And you have like champion athletes who are like about 40 years old who are still competing. But even that aside, like maybe you're physically you will peak, but you're still going to keep accumulating experience. You're still going to keep accumulating knowledge. So yeah, I've got this idea that I should always be trying to better myself, and I kind of have an idea of what a better version of myself is. And I'm quite critical of myself, that when I find myself to do something which is not in a line with my best self, I really like criticize myself for that. You know, if I go and eat the cake or if I go and do something stupid, you know, I really take the time to ask myself, is this what like someone that I would really love or appreciate or respect, like this idea that I want to be like, is this compliant with this? And if they're separate, then I try not to do it. And I'm not even saying that I'm the best example of it. You know, I'm not the strongest person out there, but I think I have a decent philosophy which I try to live by. But I'm more concerned about having resolutions and goals is just a way of living. I think everyone should constantly have some kind of goal. You should always have goals in your life. You shouldn't just be at a point in your life where you're working and you're just watching TV and then da da da. There should be some kind of goal, big or small. Like, we should always kind of be progressing to something. So yeah, I really deeply encourage people towards that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I don't know if you would agree with this then, but I would say the idea of New Year's resolutions is better than it's better to have that than nothing. Some people they never take time to reflect, and maybe they do it like one time a year at New Year's, and I think that's better than nothing. Right?
Sure, of course, yeah, I completely agree. As long as people get their foot in the door, you know.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm criticizing more are the resolutioners who are there in the gym in January, but then they're not there in February.
Yeah, and also they could go in December, but they're like, nah, I'll wait till first, and there's no reason to wait. Yeah.
Oh, they're usually hungover on the first, you're normally in the second.
Yeah, that was my problem in the past too. But yeah, so I think for me, I used to like the word resolution, then I went against it, and now I'm kind of somewhere in the middle where I choose a different word. I like the word reflection. So again, it's very arbitrary date. There's nothing so special about New Year. It's just another day. But I think it's a really good time for me to kind of reflect over what I've done on the year and what I want to change in the next year. So do you take any time at this year to do that? Or is this something you do maybe throughout the year and not any specific time?
You mean to like reflect on my goals and such, or?
Yeah, like goals maybe in your work or your life or this kind of stuff, yeah. Or maybe some trips you want to take.
It's a good question. Not particularly. I mean, I have like a handful of things. Like, I've kind of got. I heard once that we can only take 5 things on board at a time, right? So, like, you've got your job. One of these things should be looking after yourself, your physical health, exercise, mental health, learning. Then maybe you have some kind of projects going on. Maybe you're learning a language. Like, you shouldn't take on more than 5 things on your plate at a time, I've heard, because if you do more than this, then you're likely to burn out. You're likely to struggle to achieve optimal results. And I've often found myself to be the person who takes on too much, and I'd say that's kind of where I am right now. Not that I'm burning out, but I do feel like I have a tendency to take a lot on. Maybe I try to do too much at once. For instance, right now I'm working with my little sister to produce a children's book.
Oh, nice.
So we're working on that, and it's one of my big goals this year is to actually have that published and get it out into the world. I'm really excited about that goal. Another one I've got going on is there's a YouTuber called Ali Dawa from London. So I'm collaborating with him on some YouTube videos. I haven't asked him if I can talk about it, so I'm not going to really go into the details just in case. But I was just with him in London last week, and we're recording a documentary. So I've got that on board, and I'm potentially going to be back in London in the next week or two. Maybe I'll see you there.
Yeah, maybe. Let me know.
But yeah, I've got that on the boards. Trying to grow my business, trying to do the CELTA. Yeah, I definitely think I could benefit from maybe being a little bit more strategic, maybe setting a 2-month goal and a 4-month goal or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard someone recommend like doing quarterly goals, like every quarter of the year. Have a reminder to reflect on what you've been doing, and if you need to like redirect what you're doing in some way. And yeah,
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to do this year: is cut things out, because I'm exactly the same as you. Like, I try to take on too many things. So I sat down this year and thought, like, what could I cut out? What is like superfluous in like what I'm doing in my work and stuff?
Yeah,
it's difficult to do that, but I think it's important.
Yeah, I think it's very important to do this. It's really worth considering. Like, in a lot of these self-development books, it tells you to think about your death. Because life is very finite, and what do you want to be remembered for, and what do you want to achieve in your life? What do you want to achieve in your physical health? What do you want to achieve in like what you learn? What do you want to achieve in what you do, what you build? Because if we're just because we might have an idea that we are some kind of savage entrepreneur, or we are so smooth in these kind of conditions, or you could do so well at this, but then we spend all our time playing video games, and the days pass, the weeks pass, the years pass, and then we never actually achieve that level. So definitely worth considering.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speaking of achievements, I thought this could be my first question. I thought I could ask you some questions about maybe the previous year and this year, and maybe include some expressions that might be new for the listeners too. And these are questions that I ask myself as well, like at this time of year. So the first one is like, what were your biggest achievements last year? It could be work related or self, related, whatever.
Yeah. So the Learn English with Ray, like the YouTube channel and the Instagram page, that's kind of my main thing that I focus on. But I opened up another page last year called Talk with Ray, where I do podcasting, and I had an amazing opportunity to speak with some really excellent speakers, like speakers who I've watched for years, and it's opened the doors for me to actually get to talk to them and meet them, such as Yasmin Mojahid, Adnan Rashid, Omar Issa. These are people who I've been aware of for a very, very long time, and now they've actually agreed to meet me and like give me some of their time. Derek Clark, an amazing motivational speaker that I spoke to. So I'd say that was a really kind of big highlight. Ali Dawa, he was advertising for a scriptwriter he needed for his project, and I applied for that, and he took me out to London and allowed me to be involved in it, and I was with him for 5 days. And he's like a guy who I've known for years, so I feel like I've just kind of went from like a normal civilian to like hanging out with like celebrities who I've watched for years. So I'd say that was particularly special for me.
That's such a good feeling, isn't it? I remember having that when I started the podcast, and I was thinking of all these guests I wanted to talk to in the future. And I was thinking, wow, it'd be great if I could kind of make it look professional enough so I could talk to these people. And I've spoken to many people who I've listened to for many years as well. So yeah, very similar. It's a great feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you have a particular guest who stands out to you as being particularly special, or you're particularly honoured to have on?
Well, I guess most people
this guy.
In this.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
Learn English with Ray.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I'm joking. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Most people say the same, I think, in this area, which is Luke's English podcast.
Yeah,
because he's got like the biggest podcast, and
he's
anyone
awesome.
You say any learner you say, like, what do you do to study English? They're like, oh, I listen to his podcast. So right when I started, I always thought, well, I'll make it my goal to talk to him, but I kind of wanted to gain some more confidence here first.
Luke is a really nice guy. He's
Yeah. Did you speak to him?
Yeah, I've been on his podcast as well.
Yeah.
I think I was on like literally just before you. I think it was me, and then it was like you.
Really?
Literally a week or two later.
Nice.
Yeah, but as a guy who's so massively successful, sometimes I think in our head we kind of think these massive famous people are going to be a certain way, but like a lot of them are just very ordinary people. And look,
Hmm.
he's so polite, so decent. The only time I've sent him exchanged a couple of emails with him, and there was a time I was on his podcast, but in the interactions I've had with him, I just thought he was a really really decent guy. I really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah, yeah. I think at the end of the day, people get really intimidated by the follower count on social media or something, and it doesn't.
Sure.
And apart from a minority of people who let it get to their heads, it doesn't usually mean much, does it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Um, in terms of achievements, I have to admit, I don't want to, you know, put all the spotlight on you and make you feel,
No, go ahead.
on the spot. But I, yeah, I thought it was fair if I comment as well on the answers. But I don't know what I would say for achievements. I feel like last year was a really boring year for me and many people, during the pandemic. But perhaps for me, it would be like doing my group classes, because I think I started the group classes in December, the previous one, not the one we just had.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing, group classes twice a week on Zoom since then, and that's been really enjoyable, and that's been something that I've always wanted to do, but I was always a bit scared of.
It's something I really want to do. It's something that's like, for example, you already have your website launched. That's another thing that I'm kind of working on very, very slowly. But I am working on launching a website so I can do things like that. Like just now, I'm only on Preply, is where I do my teaching.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I already have so many ideas in my head for how I would conduct group classes. I think I believe I could bring a lot to it, but I'm just not there yet. So I'm focusing on finishing the CELTA. God willing, that will be completed by the end of February or March. And then I'm looking forward to getting into group coaching, particularly in person, because I've been doing all of this online for the last 2 years, but I actually want to be like in front of people and meet people and be in proximity with them.
Yeah, that's nice. You're the opposite of me. I'm not so good with face to face. I mean, if
Oh,
we
really?
ever meet, you'll realize that how much more weird I seem in real life, and awkward. But well, my next question was, looking ahead to 2022, what is something that you think you should cut down on?
Good
Cut
question.
down on, for the listeners, means reduce, do less of.
Yep. And then you also have cut out, which means to completely stop.
Yes. So you can answer that as well if you like. Cut down on or cut out. Yeah.
Good question. Like, I'm going to be exposing myself, exposing all of my bad habits here in this question.
That's the plan.
Like I have some like kind of like I enjoy playing video games, right? And I try not to play them a lot, but I do find myself getting hooked on phone games. We've all got smartphones. I've actually been advised by someone not to have a smartphone, but to have a dumb phone, have a phone that doesn't connect to the internet. I kind of have this idea that I'm kind of striving towards, that like one day I'd like to be away from the internet. I'd like to be away from TVs. I'd like to be on have like a farmhouse or something and be next to nature and not like so close to, like, for example, all these lights and cameras and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd like to take, cut down on my time on the phone, cut down, and I've like deleted all of these superfluous apps, all of these extra apps which are like games and stuff. I have one game on it just now, and I've been playing it a lot, so it's something I need to reduce. Sugar, too much sugar, too much carbohydrates, too much or too many carbohydrates, too many carbohydrates.
Too much. I feel like you don't really count them, do you? Like I have two carbohydrates. Yeah, I guess it can be countable depending on how you talk about it, right?
Yeah. Okay. I need to work on my countable and uncountable nouns. It's, it's another thing I need to work on. So, yeah, I'd say probably dietary, and I would say, like the time that we waste, because we keep talking about how fast time is passing, and see this stuff where we play video games, and the brain just goes dull, and all of our attention is in this fictitious world. I think it's for the most part really a waste of time. Although I do enjoy it, but I'm trying to really I'm able to play 2 or 3 games a year. But the thing is, when I do play them, it's like I can play it for like 5 hours or 6 hours in one day, And I know it's just, for a guy who has so many goals, it's inappropriate to be spending that much time playing video games. But yeah, I suppose just cutting out anything which is, or at least cutting down on anything which is not improving my spiritual health, my mental health, my physical health. I think obviously we need to unwind, but like, for example, probably video games, sugar. If I were to say something, it'd need to be those.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, phone is a big one for me too. I like the idea of having, if you type in like minimalist smartphone or something on Google, you'll see all these like really cool phones where they look nice and modern, but they call people in text, and you know, some of them can have other features like podcasts too. But I love that idea, but yeah, maybe I build up to that as well, like you. One thing I've done recently, which has been working well, is I put a limit on Instagram, which is 10 minutes a day. So once I've reached that limit, it will kind of block Instagram for me, and it will say you cannot access anymore.
Excellent. Great idea.
You know, I can extend it if I want to, but just having that reminder is usually enough to stop me automatically going.
I think that's brilliant. You know, recently I unfollowed everyone on Instagram, and I one of the few people I follow is you. I follow,
yes,
yeah, on so I have two accounts: Learn English with Ray, where it's like teaching English. The only people I follow on that are just like, no offense, but like pages that I don't actively watch. And the reason I say I don't actively watch yours is because I'm not learning English. Like I follow English teachers. The only people I follow are English teachers, and it's not like I'm gonna go on a binge of watching English learning videos. You know, it's not like entertainment for me. I like to check out your content. I think the content you do is excellent, but it's at least content that I'm not gonna like binge out on in like 20 minutes or 30 minutes is gonna be gone looking at English learning. Rather, I just like to support pages that I know students can benefit from, and I know students can massively benefit from your page. So, you know, on that page, I only follow those. And Talk with Ray, I talk more about kind of personal development, spirituality. You know, I'm Muslim. You know, I talk about these kind of things, and I talk with speakers who like to, you know, kind of talk about their spiritual journeys and stuff. But on that one, I don't follow anyone. And I don't do it because people say, oh, you think you're some kind of celebrity or tough guy. I don't want to be on Instagram. I really don't want to be on Instagram. Like, I don't use Instagram apart from posting. But yeah, it's keeping off of like Instagram and YouTube. It's like a black hole that we can very easily spend hours and hours and hours in, and it just accumulates and accumulates of time that we spend, you know, away from the real world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I don't spend as much on there as I see some people do. I think 2 hours a day. That sounds like a lot. I don't know. You know, it has your screen time. Like, say if you have an iPhone, it will tell you your screen time. I think mine's like an average of like. I don't want to say that sounds way too much. 2 hours a day. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Do you know how to check screen time? If you like, I'll expose myself and I'll tell you how bad mine is.
I'll have a look at mine. Yeah. So settings.
Hold on, let's see. Settings.
Screen time.
Also encourage the students to pull up their phones and compare it with ours.
Yeah, compared to us.
Yeah, so
mine is from the last week. My daily average is 1 hour 47 minutes
a day.
Yeah.
Is that just on your phone or just on Instagram?
Just on my phone. Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. I mean, it depends what you're doing on your phone.
The most used is my podcast app, so that's not too
okay. Bad. That's pretty good. How do I check my usage? I'm on settings.
Right near the bottom here. Well, not near the bottom. In the middle, you'll see that screen time.
Screen time. I am using an Android, so I think it's slightly different.
I have no idea about Android.
I can type in screen time.
Yeah, it's good to see that. I like to see every week just to keep track of it and make sure you're not going overboard on anything. Because sometimes you forget about it, don't you?
You know, I can't find it, but it might be for the best, because otherwise I might be exposing my horrible habit. I'll check it in private, and then if I'm not ashamed of it, I'll text it to you, and I'll let you know.
If you want me to, I can also, like, if people are watching the video version of the podcast, I can like put it on screen here. Like, if you text me,
it depends on how good or bad it is. So it'll depend on. So if you don't see anything at this point in the podcast, you know that I was ashamed of it and I didn't send it to you.
Or maybe it doesn't exist on your phone. I don't know about Android, but
I think it would. I see advanced features, digital well-being, battery care device, general management, accessibility. Yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah, no worries, no
No,
worries.
I
But
found it. I found it. I found it. I
okay,
found
okay,
it.
here we go.
An hour 52.
Oh, that's almost exactly the same as me.
Right, but listen to this. See 1 hour and 2 minutes of that every day, or sorry, is this on average or is this in the last 24 hours?
What, you mean mine or yours?
Is it not the same?
I mean, mine's iPhone, so it's totally different. Mine was average of the last 7 days.
All right, okay. I don't know if this is an average or if this is the last 24 hours. I have no idea, right? But I've spent an hour playing this shooter sniper game. So once you take that away, it's 52 minutes on, like, it says I spent 25 minutes on the Google Play Store. I've got no idea. Oh, you know what that is? See, in the sniper game, in order to get more like bonuses, you need to watch ads, and the ads take you to the Google Play Store. So an hour and
Yeah.
25 minutes of my time is actually just playing the sniper game.
So what was that, like 25 minutes on adverts?
On adverts, exactly. Because if you
Wow,
watch the
that's a lot.
adverts, you get more cash.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Wow. I mean, do you think games like that, do you want to cut them out completely, or do you think there is a time and a place for games where it can be beneficial in a productive person's
I'd say it's
life?
probably subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I were to be honest, if I were to think about some of the people I look up to the most, and the idea of what I think a better version of myself would be, I don't see there being room for stuff like that in it. I mean, I only play one of this like maybe once a year. I like sniper games. Maybe once a year I'll get one, and then I'll play it a lot. But I've almost completed it, so I'm hoping I'm gonna complete it in the next few days, and then just delete it off my phone.
Nice.
I'm
Hope
playing.
so.
Talking of video games, do you play many video games?
Yeah, I love video games, but I try to limit. So I've got a PS4, but I don't buy many games, and I maybe play probably like 5 hours a week, something like that.
Okay. Have you played Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah, I played the first one a lot. The second one I've only seen on YouTube. I haven't played it.
Okay, I completed it when it first came out, but like I was kind of hungry for it, and I bought it again, and I'm replaying it. But so in Red Dead Redemption, you can either be a good guy or a bad guy or somewhere in between. The first time I played it, I was the good guy, and when I play games where you get the option, I always like to be a good guy. But this time, I'm just being a complete bandit, horrible gangster, and I'm playing it with my little sister. Maybe I'm being a very bad influence on her, but yeah, I think I've spent quite a lot of hours on that recently as well, which I
I mean,
need
it
to.
sounds like family time as well, so that
Yeah,
could be
I guess.
another side benefit. Yeah. But yeah, well, okay. Well, the next question is, again, looking ahead to the year we're in now. Is there anything you're forging ahead with? So I kind of like this phrasal verb, I suppose, to forge ahead. To what would you say? It's kind of to work really hard on something and keep going at
Yeah.
it, right?
I'd say it's the kids book I'm working on. Working on that, like, that's been in the works since like June last year. Um, it started with us watching some movies, and I kind of said to my sister, you should make a kids book, and then I said, why don't we do it together? And we started, thinking about what would it be about, and we wanted to do something Islamic. We wanted, more importantly, with a very good message. And the message we're giving in this book is that a lot of people, a lot of kids, young kids, they want to be like the cool kids in their class. They want to be like what everyone else is doing, what's cool on social media. But the whole message about this is you don't need to follow them in order, like, fitting in is not going to like increase your status. It's not going to make you better or more confident, or it's about being able to identify what's good and what's wrong, and finding true friends, and sticking with them. So to kind of summarize, that's the rough message of the book. And we've been working pretty diligently on that for the last 6 or 7 months, and we're almost ready for it to be illustrated. So working on that, I'd say I recently launched a Patreon, and I think I've made hundreds and hundreds of videos over the last couple of years, in regards to English, whether it's like phrasal verbs or common grammar mistakes or different ways of saying things, like things which I haven't really seen being taught widely on YouTube. And particularly like with my students, the very common mistakes that come up, I wanted to focus on those. And I've made what I think are very useful video episodes for students. So I'm working on releasing that very regularly. Subscription, just the cost of a cup of coffee a month, if anyone's interested, £2.50. But yeah, working on rolling that out. So I'd say the book, the Patreon. Just now there's the documentary I'm producing with Ali Dawa. I'd say those are the three projects that I'm working, and obviously I need to finish the CELTA and then start advertising group lessons and maybe look into moving to a different country. So I'd say these are the things that I'm really, what was that phrasal verb? Forging ahead with?
Forge ahead with.
Those are the things that I'm forging ahead with.
I like how you had like a couple things on your list. It sounded quite achievable, and then you threw on like 5 massive things at the end really quickly. Like, yeah, just move to another country, finish CELTA, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, sounds busy year though. Hopefully you can achieve them all, and that'll be an amazing year if you can.
Yeah, maybe we can catch up in the next year and do another podcast and see, okay, did you do it, or did you just play Red Dead Redemption, the sniper game? Yeah.
I mean, that's why I love talking about it with someone, and especially talking about it online, is because you're kind of holding yourself, well, people are holding you accountable, and if you don't do it, they're going to be like, hey,
well, the thing is, a lot of people might actually watch this a year, and like, you're going to just keep growing. I believe you've got a lot of potential. You're just going to get bigger. So maybe like in a year's time, someone will be watching this, and if you are watching this a year in the future, you can just go over to the Learn English with Ray page and be like, did he do it? No, he didn't.
Yeah, you can see in real time. So hello future people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar for me. I've got a similar thing to Patreon on Level Up English, and I'm going to forge ahead with that this year and do a lot more work on that.
Good. Yeah, I think your English content's really excellent, and I hope you keep it up. I think students are going to benefit a lot from your content. I think your podcast is excellent. I think your YouTube channel is excellent. I think the short videos you do on Instagram, like students are really getting a full package by following you. So I'd really encourage them to keep doing that.
Oh, thank you very much for the compliment. Didn't even have to pay you. Thank you.
You can pay me after. It's cool.
Yeah. I'll pay you. The final question of this list is, will you embark on any trips? So embark on a trip, leave on a trip. I know, even though it's kind of still a pandemic.
Yeah, I would love to. I suppose, with I'm not that bothered about COVID. I'm not too worried about it. Whether that's to my own detriment or not is yet to be seen. But I think it's particularly difficult. Plus, like with a lot of things being closed and cancellations, traveling just doesn't seem that optimal to me just now. I think right now I'm focusing on building this strong foundation of things. Like, for example, if I have my teaching and my CELTA, and I've finished all these projects that I've got here, then I think I'll be free to like go and travel or something. I say that, but then maybe another project will fall on my plate.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, it's in my heart. I'd love to travel to another country, spend some time there. I'd love to go meet some of my students. In fact, here's a question for you. Have you ever met any of your students in person?
No, never met an online student. Even though there are many that live in London quite close to me, but I don't know, it's a difficult thing. I feel like I'd be very awkward about it. I don't know. I've met other teachers before, but I don't know about students. Maybe one day, we'll see.
All right, okay. Yeah, I'd really like to meet some of my students. Some of my students are so nice. Students have said I can go live with them. A student from Croatia has said, I've got keys to an apartment. Why haven't you gone? Just go take my keys and just go live in Croatia. Go live there a few weeks or something. And they've said this to me a couple of times. I feel like it's too big of a thing to ask of someone. But, I really appreciate that my students have offered this to me. And, I would love to go see them. Some of my students have actually come to my city. 2 of my students have come to my city and I've met them in person. One of my students was passing by, but I didn't see him. But I went to London and I tried to see him and I didn't. But I'm planning to come back to London in about 2 weeks' time. So I'm going to reach out to get him again and hopefully meet him. But yeah, I really like meeting my students in person. So, and I know I've got students spread all across Europe and the Middle East and China. So I'd love if I could to see them.
Yeah. I guess that gives you some place to go as well. Like, the world is so big, it's hard to know where you want to go. And now you've got some ideas, maybe.
I think, through doing this job, I think I have connections in most major countries. Like, if I went like Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, like I know people. If I went to, like, Qatar, Mecca, Medina, If I went to like Iraq, Iran, like these are really big countries. Some of these are really big countries, right? And I know like 2 people in them, but like there are people like I know in these places, which I think
Yeah.
it will help build bridges and make it easier for when I do travel to them.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I'm just to, I guess, make it clear, I'm not saying like I don't want to meet anyone. I guess for me, it's more of like I'm a bit more shy, perhaps. But I think if I'm in another country, I'd be more open to that. But when I'm at home in the England, it's very hard for me to get my mindset into kind of meeting new people. And I don't know, it's something about just being home and comfortable. And
See, while you're
more closed
posting your
off to that.
podcast, you don't come across as shy at all.
Everyone says that, but inside it's like it's crushing shyness all the time.
Oh, really? Have you always experienced this?
Yeah, I used to be very shy in school, and I still think whether it shows on the outside now, I don't know, but on the inside, it's still there. Yeah, It's just maybe more covered up these days.
Interesting. You know, I kind of like that. I used to be very shy in high school, and I used to find like kind of social interactions very daunting. And the idea of doing podcasting would have been so foreign to me. But I came across this stuff. It was like fake it till you make it, and it particularly helped me when I went from high school to college because I was around new people who had never seen me before, who had never met me before, and I kind of learned, you can stand with your shoulders out, your shoulders back, your chest out. You can have the body language of someone who's confident, and then I found people actually treated me differently because they thought they were talking to a confident person. And then I would say, and when they treat you like that, it actually kind of helped me feel more confident.
Yeah.
And particularly a lot of the nervousness was like, we feel nervous and then like the body tightens. And now here's just a tip for anyone. See when you're feeling emotional, pay close attention to your body. Because see when you're angry, you might find your fists tighten, or if you're depressed, your shoulders slump. And see if this is like particularly strong, then it's like we're actually being completely controlled by our emotions. The fact that we feel an emotion and then it's just, for example, some people get angry and then they just lose control, like it just takes over their body. Because, so I'd say have a consciously pay attention to what your emotion is doing to your body. And I'd find that I'd be in a social circumstance, where I'm not feeling comfortable and my breathing would become really shallow and I'd be speaking like from my throat. Whereas, when I became aware of that and I realized that this was happening to me, I realized if I just kind of relax my muscles and keep taking deep breaths, slowly but steadily, it kind of alleviated those nervous feelings. So I don't know if that's any benefit or might be of slight benefit to anyone in the audience.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be. Yeah, I think having that awareness of what your body is doing and not just going with those emotions is huge. Yeah. So maybe I could just explain a little bit about my plan. So this is something I haven't done before, but I've recently started a new private podcast, which is on my membership page. And I had a plan, which was to dedicate the last section of this podcast, this episode, to the private one. So
Great.
I thought, if you're happy to do that, maybe we could do like an official sign off now. So for the people who are listening on the main podcast, you could just kind of say where they can find out more about you and that kind of stuff. And then we could continue for a few minutes on the private one. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds great. So do you want me to just go ahead and mention where people can find me?
Yeah, I should say thank you for talking with me on this main podcast. And yeah, where can people find you if they want to know more?
Okay. So for anyone who wants to follow my content, I make content on how to learn English, how to speak it fluently, correctly on my YouTube page. I'm most active with my one-to-one students, so if anyone is interested in becoming my student, you can send me a message via Instagram and I'll send you my Preply link. I'm on Instagram at Learn English with Ray, where I post vocabulary videos, phrasal verb videos, idiom videos, primarily vocabulary to help do a better job in formal speaking circumstances and to help people with the IELTS exam. And if anyone who's more interested in the self-development and the philosophy, spirituality side, I do Talk with Ray as well. So I'm Talk with Ray on YouTube and Talk with Ray on Instagram, where I speak with some really excellent guests. And just a big thank you to you for extending this invitation to me, for allowing me to ramble on about my life. So I appreciate that, and hopefully we can do one of these again sometime.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, it's been interesting. And I'll put all the links to
Thanks,
everything
man.
you mentioned in the show notes too. But yeah, thank you so much.